Hello people, just for today I'm gonna show you quickly, I'll say quickly, I don't know, how to do a sketch out of your own head. We're gonna attempt to do it with both hands. I'll be using these two for the sketch. I'm teaching myself to go with my left hand as well, because as we grow old, we're going to be getting arthritis in the right hand, and it never hurts for us to have another hand to draw with. Right, so the first thing we're going to do is think of the basic egg shape, which will go like that. As you'll see, this will be straighter than that side, and then the skull shape there, and that'll go around there. So we want that down there now. You think of the two eye sockets, ears come back down to a nose, and this bit here is mouth, obviously, and then we'll straighten this up afterwards of the face. Now this is going to be drawn all over, but one thing you want to remember while doing this is that you're going to be moving it to another page, so it doesn't matter if there's drawing all over the place, that doesn't matter. So then when it comes to the hair, that always stands up a bit. Looks a bit stupid at the minute, but we'll get the neck there, shoulders there. You don't press too hard because of wrecking the paper. And then we'll try and put bits of hair down by the ears there that come there. That bit there is obviously the hairline. Two ears there. When you draw in the eyebrows and the eye sockets, think of the eye sockets, because that has a big effect on what you're drawing. Now this is looking really stupid at the minute. She looks like she's got a bit of a big chin, but we can change that. So put the razors full. Find the neck, and that is basically all I personally do with two hands. Then we'd swap over to the sharpest one, because they're both HB. Right, now a good way to think of a face, because this is a straight on face, is the basic shape. We're going to be able to see, let's do that there, so these eye sockets here, we're going to be able to see them. It doesn't matter if you draw all over the place, that's what this particular drawing is here for. As long as you don't colour it in, you'll be fine. The shape of the eyebrows, the way I shape the eyebrows, I'll try and get it in view, is put a little bit in like that above the eye, and then it comes up, because obviously some ladies shape their eyebrows, some men do as well. So I'll put that in there. Like that. Then you've got to think the nose is here. There's usually a bit there we see, but we'll put that in there because that's going to be tip of the nose. what I should have said is put that in. Because what that will do is it will help straighten, like we draw this eye here, we're going to more or less be able to judge it, those two sides. So it'll be small. So we'll start going into the detail. So like I say, I tried to do the basic sketch with both hands now. So I'm kind of teaching myself again to draw with the other hand. It's not good at the minute, but it just takes time, like with any drawing. Now there's a couple of ways of getting this to another piece of paper. One is with a backing light board. You can use a computer, you can use a proper light board, or push come to the shove, tape it with some masking tape to your window when the sun's out, and go over the lines that you've done. You're not cheating because you're basically going over your own drawing. That's one way of getting it over. Another way is taking a photograph. If you've got an iPad, take a photograph of it, then place it in one of the drawing programs. I use Procreate. And yeah, you go from there. And then all this scribbling and that won't matter, because you'll basically be going over the top of what you've already done. Yeah, some might call it cheating. If you're not comfortable with that, you can start rubbing everything out, rubbing all the bits out, but by doing the sketch first, you've already started affecting the pad. And what I mean by that is, if, for example, I put a line like that in, now if I rub that off, it might be difficult to rub off. That is irrelevant at the minute, because the point I'm making is when you go over it, it'll stand out. Do you see that? See that there? It stands out when you're trying to do the shading. And that's what happens if you put too much on, and it's basically the piece of paper you're going to be using. What I'd recommend using is a piece of Bristol board. You could buy it in pads, and it is really thick, but you will need lighting behind it, so minimalistic, tape it to a window when the sun's out, and you've got free light board there. Now, what we basically want to do is think of all these lines that you're going to be seeing, so I'll try and speed this up a bit. That line of a mouth is probably the darkest one of all of them, like between that one and that one. You'll see as I'm going along I do bits like this, and that's how I measure things up. We've got to think now, those bits are just part of the skull. They would help if for example, she had short hair or you were putting the hair over her, it would help you shade in. But that is just something I put in a drawing to help me follow. What I would say is there is no wrong way for you to do your drawing. You've got to find what works for you. If you look at all the books, if you go to evening classes, things like that, they'll tell you to draw one way. And like one thing I see a lot, even with artists that I like, they'll use head length to measure things up on the body, and I really don't like that. I prefer, like I mentioned in that other video, perspective lines like that. You'll see as I'm drawing this anyway. Get this mouth done. Try and put a smile on her face. You usually find with the lips that the bottom bit is darker, this bit here, because this bit here dips in because of the chin bone. I'll go around there. And when you're doing it as well, I don't always get it right. I should do, I know, but I don't. It's better to draw this side if you're right-handed, this side if you're left-handed, because you can then judge what you've got to do on that side by what's on that side, what looks right. Now we've got to think of a neck. See, I've done it on the right side, idiot. This is the thing, even when I've been drawing, 40 years? We all carry on making mistakes. I don't believe there's an artist out there who doesn't stop making mistakes. They get to a certain point and they're that good they stop making mistakes. I don't think that happens. Personally, that is a point I would argue as well. This comes in here a little bit because of the skull, the way the skull's shaped. So this here, you'll see, don't worry about that bit, that's just, we can turn that into something else if there's a line there that we need for something else. That's going to come up there. Hairline looks like it should probably be there, a little bit above what's there. At this stage, it doesn't matter if you make mistakes. That's what this drawing's for. And I'm not drawing anyone in particular, I'm just drawing out my head with this one. She's looking alright. Good enough for me anyway. You see these lines I'm doing that are darker? They're the lines that you would follow through a piece of Bristol board. Once they're done and you know for definite they're in the right place. I mean, using a pencil like this or a rubber tipped HB, you can shift bits out if you want to. That is up to you. It can, and it does, affect the paper, but that is completely up to you because this isn't the main drawing. And it's like I said in the last video, it never hurts to get some drawings wrong because they're never really wrong. That's not even a word. They're never wrong because you learn from them, you make the mistakes, you learn from them, and as long as you can carry that on to your next drawing, then there's no harm in making mistakes. My problem at this point would be going too far, to the point that I start shading it in here, there and everywhere rather than just getting on with it. So what I'm going to do now is switch to this pencil. It's a Faber-Castell, if I've said that right, 4B pencil. And this is the time you don't particularly want to be catching that bit of your hand on there because you can already see it smudges it. So we'll go over all these darker lines. It's like I say, this is no one in particular, it's just how to draw the front of a face. Or one way of drawing the front of the face. If you see something as you're going along, like these bits here I've just seen, it doesn't hurt just to put that in to give you some kind of guidance for the main drawing. I'm not seeing her eyebrows so much at the minute, so I'm going to put them in. Don't want to go too crazy with this picture. You just want the guidelines that you need. And if when you're doing this you see some lines, like for example that bit there is one I'd pick on, this bit that I don't want in there, then take them out with the erasers. Just bear in mind that if you're not going to use a light box, then but you're going to turn this into the main drawing, your pencil erasers are going to affect the paper, because this is just bog standard A5 cartridge paper. Is that neck too thick? Let's put that in. Look at the other side. I don't think the other side's shaped. So I'll go over there and do that. There we go. Try and see if there's anything else to think of, because as you go along, there's certain parts of the face that you might be able to put in for the main drawing to help guide you. Like, for example, this bit of the skull, not her face obviously, but the skull is always affected there. You'll see that on any looking on any woman's face, any human's face I should say, because of the whole. It's not always visible, because if I was shading in this side of her, I wouldn't see as much that side as I would that side, but there'd still be a little bit shading to put in around here. It's good guidance though, I think, for the next piece of paper. If you've got something like this, you can even get to this point if you want to and go over these lines with ink. But that's if you're confident enough to do it without messing it up. You can even start putting the shading in if you want to. You can either use the typical hatching and cross hatch, which, where do I give you an example? Here. Like that, hatching, cross hatch. Or if you've got them, one of these, they're to help with your shading. And when I found these, I was so happy after doing the first drawing, because the shading they give you, well, I'll show you. You can see as I'm doing it, the kind of shading you get off them, and it doesn't affect your paper as much either. You don't get the lines, but you are rubbing at the paper, which in itself could have an effect. If I do some of the shading over here, you'll be able to see what they're like. I personally prefer, if I'm drawing a face, to use, like for these parts, I'd use 2 H's or 4 H's. And the way I'd normally do it is, you know, those stacks of paper you get that look a little bit like that, and you've got loads of them in there. I'd get one of those. Let's say this is a piece of paper. That's a 4B pencil, but just for argument's sake, let's pretend it's 4H. Actually, no, I'll grab 4H. Yeah, I'm blind. And I'd colour that in. Colour it in that way. That way. That way. That way. And then I'd make sure with a nail file you've gone over these. And just go over that. Have your pencil handy for when you need to top that back up. and then you can just put very soft shading in the face, and it's a lot better than any of the B pencils. Obviously, if there's a big bit that's shaded, for example, let's say it came like that and it's so pronounced it's really dark, obviously you're going to have to think of pencils like 4Bs and that for those, because you'd fill that area there. But doing drawings like this is a good way to learn about your pencils. It's a good way to learn about shading and light perspective on the face and where it would sit. Because sometimes the light is facing that way, wherever it may be, and it does have an effect on the face, like underneath here. Sometimes it's down there, sometimes it's both sides, sometimes it's not there at all. You just basically go over it like that to pronounce the muscle tendons. And by doing this, it gives you a basic outline for you to follow. If you want to, you can take out the majority of the scribble drawing. It doesn't take long. It doesn't matter if the page is wrecked anyway, because you're going to be putting it on another piece of paper. And from there, you move on to the Bristol board. That's what I would do. I mean, you might have, as you listen to different people who teach artwork, I would say try them all. Find what suits you. Don't take it that one particular way is the right way. You've got to do it. I must be doing it this way because they say so. You've got to try different things. Open up your mind a little bit and see what comes out of your head and think, maybe, well, if I try that. And this is how I came up with this way of drawing. Fluff. No, we've basically got our portrait. I'm terrible at this point of stopping, because I see little bits. I think, well, if that was changed like this, so I end up changing it. I'm probably concentrating too much on this sketch than the main one. See, the shading comes down there. That's why I've put them in, because it's basically shaded there like that. How the nose comes in like this. So yeah, I think that is enough, and I'll see you in the next video.